All right, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Stephen Kodur. I'm the president of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, also a student at Reedley College in the Central Valley. I'm excited to be with you today. I am joined today with me are my executive committee. All of my vice presidents are on the call with me today to be able to give you an update on what we're doing as an SSCCC. Our term just barely started in July. So we've been in this position, some of us for 3 months, some of us for only, 3 days, 3 weeks. We just recently got some new vice presidents. So this is my executive committee, myself as the president. I have a vice president, her name is Catherine Squire. She will be giving you an update later on external committees. I have a vice president of regional affairs, Benjamin Blevins. He is from Region 10 in the southernmost part of the region, or of the state. He will be giving us an update on the regional affairs. We have Vice President of Legislative Affairs, Andrew Nickens. He's from Region 2 in the Sacramento area, and he'll be giving us a legislative update. We have our Vice President of Finance, Tony Schiffmeyer, also from Region 2, and she'll be giving us a financial update, what's gonna happen with our AB 1504 funds and such. And then Vice President of Communications is Brianna Ross, recently inducted at our special delegate assembly meeting back at the beginning of September. So she's been in this position for about 3 weeks, just like our VPRA Blevins, and she is from Region 8. I think I got that right, yeah, 8. So Southern Coast. So we're really excited to be here today, giving you an update on the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. So I'm gonna start off just with some quick updates on what's been going on with the SSCCC. What have we been getting into? What are some of the things that we've done within the first 3 months? I just want to highlight a couple of things with you that the Student Senate has signed on to, and some of the work that we've been doing. So first off, we had just started in July, coming off of a legal battle with the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, on CARES funding. And right when we took office, we had the ICE modifications where they were trying to modify the SEVP and our international students and not allowing them to stay in the country if they were taking online courses. And the Student Senate really was like, we need to support our international and our foreign exchange students. So we signed on to litigation with the Attorney General's office. We wrote a declaration or a letter of support that was actually put into the legal documents. It was about a 9-10 page document that just stated, some of the status of some of our foreign exchange students, and they actually wrote to us, and we included their stories in that in that litigation, and it was really great to have the Student Senate sign on to that and give us some notoriety and to show our support for our exchange students. So that was a great kind of beginning to our term, getting in and being able to help out that underserved population of students. The other thing I want to talk to you about is just that we have more student input being asked from our partners. Our system partners are looking to the Student Senate to provide the student perspective in many different things. There are so many different committees that we're being reached out to for. There's different events that are happening. I want to focus on 3 things. There's one, the legal opinion in favor of students on hiring committees. The Chancellor's Office just recently put out a legal opinion that says that students can serve on hiring committees. Lots of districts out there are saying students shouldn't be serving in hiring committees. It's illegal. We don't want to have that. There's so many different union issues. And the Chancellor's Office actually said, hey, there's nothing against it. So we need to start looking at our documents. They're telling the districts, look at your documents, change whatever's in there, because if you're not having students serve on hiring committees, then that goes against our vision for success. So I think that's a great step forward for students, being able to provide that student perspective in those hiring committees and in those screening committees. We want to see a faculty that represents students, right? We want to see that faculty diversity, and the student perspective will go a long way to help with that. The Chancellor's Office last month held a Nurturing an Anti-Racist Campus Culture webinar. They had system partners or people representing each of the system partners, I was given the great opportunity to be able to speak on the student perspective. I put forward our anti-racism student plan of action and some of the key points in there. And it was just a great way for us, to get that student perspective out there, right? And for us to talk about what's been going on with the students. Sorry for that glitch. You just lost the PowerPoint, but we've been doing a lot to be able to provide that student perspective. Sorry, that totally lost my train of thought when I was doing that. But yeah, it goes a long way to be able to provide that. We actually had over 20. I think the Chancellor's office said there was about 25,000 people that were on that Nurturing an Anti-Racist Campus Culture webinar. So it was definitely great to be able to provide the student perspective. People were reaching out saying that's, it's great that the students are speaking up. So, there are definitely lots of different things that are happening within your campus that they really need the student perspective on. So make sure that you are connecting there. The other thing that I want to talk about is the Board of Governors. Board of Governors has been reaching out to the students to provide input and a student perspective. Most specifically, just this past Tuesday, the Board of Governors asked myself and Vice President Squire to come in and speak on two different things. It was one, the DEI work, the diversity, equity, and inclusion work that we've been doing as a student senate. We're trying to promote the Chancellor's call to action. So we've been doing numerous things. I think my Vice President will get into that in a little bit, but she was able to provide what the Student Senate has been doing in that work. And also our board member, our student board member on the Board of Governors put out a basic needs resolution in support of basic needs for students. And it was unanimously passed by the Board of Governors saying, hey, we're going to start working with our state agencies and our federal agencies to make sure that students' needs are being met. And that's a huge win for students, especially during this COVID-19 time. Resources are thin, and we want to make sure that we're supplying the best type of resources for our students. We also got student recognition in the Chancellor's Emergency Authority at that same Board of Governors meeting. They presented a extension to the Chancellor's Emergency Authority, where the Chancellor now has emergency authority to take action in emergency situations. Student Senate for California Community Colleges actually got wordage in there that the Chancellor must consult with us. So if there's any emergency authority that he's going to take, he needs to run it by the Student Senate first if it's going to directly impact students. And I think that's a great win, right? If the Chancellor is going to put emergency authority policies into place, why wouldn't he want to ask students how this might affect them? And I think that's a great way for students to raise their voice. So us as the Student Senate, we're here to represent the voice of the students. And we're trying to be effective through our regions and listening to what that student voice is, so we can make those knowledgeable decisions on that end. So we're really excited for that. This is pretty monumental, being able to be put into language like that. So we're really excited for that. And then last, I really want to talk to you about some great work that happened recently, and that's with our Institutional Success for People of Color Task Force. The ISPCTF, as we call it, we convened in the wake of the racial unrest that was happening in the events after the death of George Floyd. We decided as a student senate that we need to just start reaching out to our students and seeing what the climate is on their campus. What is the racial climate, and what are some things that need to change on community college campuses throughout the state? So we convened a task force of a very diverse task force with students from all walks of life. And we wanted to first put together what we called listening tours. So what we did is we held 2 different town halls where we just sat back and listened to our students. We wanted to hear, what's going on, what's being done on campuses that needs to come to our attention so that we can address. We had actually over 300 people register for that listening tour. Um, and and it was a great success. There were students, there was faculty, there was administration in there having a conversation about all the things that were happening on the at the campus level. After those listening tours, what we did as a task force is we took all of the recommendations and the stories that came out, and we put forward a student plan of action that was recently voted on by the delegate assembly on September 4th, and it was unanimously approved to have the student plan of action go forward. And the student plan of action is being sent out to our system partners, to the academic senate, the chancellor's office, and different system partners. And it really lays out what the students see the need for changes on each campus. It talks about cultural awareness and diversity, being allowed to be your authentic self on campus. We had a student who said, you know, he didn't feel welcome because of the style of hair that he had because his teacher called him out for it. We have things in that action plan talking about curriculum changes, you know, not just the need for ethnic studies, but maybe seeing requirement changes like why are we only accepting US history as the history that's being accepted by the CSU system? Why can't we have different types of history fill that requirement? And why isn't there other contributions of people of color being weaved into textbooks, say in philosophy, in biology, in all those different social sciences, different things like that. So, you know, the students really showed up, were able to do that. We also talked about students being in the hiring committee, so we were very thankful for that legal opinion that came out. And we talked about equity training also, making sure that students are in the room when they talk about equity training. One, having that be a part of the student's onboarding process or the new student orientation. And two, if you're going to be developing training for you know, racial biases that happen on campus between students, why aren't students saying, hey, this is how I want to be treated if this issue comes up on my campus, right? If we're going to tell faculty, this is how we want you to respond in that situation, why aren't we asking students, hey, how would you want to be responded to, right? So there was a great plan of action. It's all been voted on, and we're getting it out there, and there's been a lot of recognition for it. So we're really excited about that. My vice presidents right now are going to go into some of the other things that are happening within the SSCCC. I just wanted to give you a brief update on some of these things. The professional development is going to happen this starting today all the way until next week, October 2nd. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, Thursday, Friday. So we're really excited for that. We have a lot of great workshops lined up. We have a lot of system partners. The faculty associations is here, academic senate's here, TICAS is here, the RP group. They're all great workshops. I'm really excited for the 9+1, getting students to know what your rights are in the governance process. That's a really great workshop. There's one on the shared governance committees. You might not know all of the committees that are happening on your campus. There's going to be a talk about what committees are there and what they talk about in those committees and why it's important to have students in the room. We're going to hear more about everything that I talked about today, the ISPCTF, the DEI work. Those are all different breakout groups. So we're really excited to have you be a part of this training with us. But I'm going to open it up real quick. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand or type it in the chat. And if not, I'm going to pass it off to my Vice President, Catherine Squire, who will take on the next portion. But were there any questions?
I don't see any questions, Chair.
Perfect, thank you so much. So I'm going to pass this off then to my Vice President, Catherine Squire, who's going to take you through our external committees.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephen. So hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Squire. I am the Vice President for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, as well as the chair of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Subcommittee. And so I just want to give you a quick update about the work that we have been doing in that committee. That committee convened around the same time that we also had our Institutional Success for People of Color Task Force start to develop. And so I just want to speak to the work that we've been doing. Firstly, we've been focusing on just being involved in how diversity, equity, and inclusion applies to the areas of hiring, curriculum, and evaluation standards. We have about 20 subgroups in which the student perspective is going to be really valuable. And I know it's a lot of subgroups, but we really want to be involved in the transformation of those standards. And so that's been one of our biggest priorities as part of this subcommittee. We also just recently had our board of directors adopt a DEI statement. We really thought that making the commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion as a solidified pillar of our organization was extremely important. And so we really wanted to ingrain that as part of our values. And so lastly, I just want to share that several members of our subcommittee will also be running a couple of the workshops at this conference. And so we invite anyone who is interested to attend and really learn how you can promote DEI values in all the relevant areas on your campus. And alongside these workshops, we will be releasing a variety of resources for you, including a toolkit to help you become a better advocate for those student populations on your campus, as well as a glossary. And so lastly, I really want to touch on participatory governance and our external committees. You know, amidst this pandemic, it is important now more than ever that we as student leaders continue to be involved locally and statewide. Decisions on our campuses are continuing to be made every day about grading policies, classroom flexibility, about what our most important needs are in this pandemic, including technology, but also very heavily basic needs like mental health, housing, and food insecurity. And so it's important that we take advantage of every opportunity to be involved in these areas and beyond, because not only is it our right as students to be involved in these issues that are impacting us on a daily basis, but our perspectives and stories are the most powerful and valuable perspective in every room we set foot in. Part of this conference will be teaching everyone about what areas you have a right to be involved in as a student, which are called your 9+1 rights. If you don't know what those are, please attend the workshop and you'll learn all about them. And yeah, we'll get to that. But we also have a host of presenters lined up, including some faculty members who are really experts in using their voices, along with other opportunities to connect with other student leaders who can share best practices for you as you're sitting on the participatory governance committees on your campus, and also if you're interested in serving on our external committees. And so with that being said, I really want to encourage everyone to continue being involved in participatory governance committees on your campus in order to continue advocating for your students, but also get involved in the external committees we have available for you at the statewide level. These committees range from covering different student populations like our DACA students, veterans, formerly incarcerated, minority and first gen, every student population you could think of. But they're also inclusive of various areas that directly impact you. And so there's a lot of changes right now being made about basic needs, about curriculum, and a host of other areas that affect us. And so these committees are extremely important to have student representation on, because they'll usually be full of faculty and administration. But what that means a lot of the time is that you'll be the only student in the room. And so we, as part of the SSCCC, have all been in those situations, and we know how intimidating it can be to be the only student. And so we've been in the same positions. It's not always a welcoming experience. A lot of the times it's an intimidating one. And so we want to be sure that we're in the best position to prepare you. And so we also have some resources here for participatory governance to help you just become the best representative for your students that you can, what that entails. And so at the point I really want to drive home that's on the slide is that your perspective fundamentally transforms the design of our system statewide, just like it does on your local campus and in your region. And so I just want everyone to really have that in your mind as you're sitting on our external committees, and please apply to be on those. And so that concludes the end of my update. At this time, I'll go ahead and ask if there are any questions before I go ahead and pass it on to our VPRA.
I see no questions, VP Squire.
Awesome. Okay, so with that being said, I'll go ahead and pass it on to our Vice President of Regional Affairs, Benjamin Blevins.
Hi, everybody. Let's see. All right, so this is going to be relatively, I'm going to hit some key points and some goals that I have moving forward. Like President Kodur has stated, I've been in this role since September 4th, and I've been loving it ever since. Let's see. So one of our biggest things right now is 66% of our delegates are active and verified. So that means 66% of our entire system in September has a verified delegate. And that's really great, actually, in the beginning of this year, because we are going through a pandemic. We see SBAs that haven't held elections yet. So to have 66% of our entire system active this early on is a really good sign of the things to come. And I think something that I haven't even told the RADs yet of one of my personal goals is to have 85 to 90% active by winter. And that just goes in on activating our inactive region, Region 1, which we see that we have 9 out of 10 of our regions are active, and Region 1 will be active by the beginning of next month. I have reached out to those colleges. I've actually heard a lot of positive feedback. They have held elections and they have officers that are willing to serve. And I think that's the most important thing, is being an active member in your region. We have regional policies that the RAC was tasked by the strategic plan and by the work plan to develop policies for our regions, because when the strategic plan was adopted, all region bylaws and constitutions were dissolved, and they adopted the SSCCC bylaws and constitution. So one of the biggest things is providing policies for those regions, and the RAC's ad hoc committee, chaired by the Regional Affairs Director for Region 9, created those policies as a skeleton document as the base foundation for our regions, and regions 2 and 3 adopted them earlier this week and last week, and I expect regions 9, 8, 10, 5, and 4, I believe, this Friday to adopt them as well. I'm going to be focusing on regions 1, 2, and 3 this and next month, as they hold a majority of the colleges, and unfortunately they are the least active, with region 1 being completely inactive, and region 3 focusing San Francisco County and having 14 colleges and 3 active. And I think working hand in hand with the Regional Affairs Director, Angelica Campos, and the newly elected Legislative Affairs Director, Diamond White, making sure that they have the tools and resources they need from the statewide leadership and from the Regional Affairs Committee to really get the job done and make sure that we have students at the table for all those regions. Then moving on to specific trainings and regional summits will be held throughout the regions over the course of October. So we have held general trainings for the delegate assemblies. We've held webinars. We've held how to be an effective delegate, and those are great. Those provide a general overview, but moving forward to specified trainings at the delegate assemblies and executive boards, hitting those key points like Brown Act, like participatory governance, like parliamentary procedure, stuff that you'll see in this professional development series, but just making sure that there's on a more personal level training associated with that. And also promoting regional activity and institutional memory within our system. Institutional memory is seriously how we can come out of this smelling like a rose, is how we can move forward in the years to come and make sure that this isn't just a year-by-year thing. And making sure that we have leadership and we have that foundation within our system to make sure that, like, okay, you know, it isn't a fluke that we have 66% active by September. That it isn't, you know, that maybe next year we'll have 75% active by September. You know, we get our direction from the delegates. We get our direction from resolutions at General Assembly. That is how our organization is steered. So one of the things that is seriously crucial and really vitally important is making sure that we represent the voice of the students, and that is by participating in your regions. And yeah, I think that's it for my update. I will now entertain some questions before I pass it off to our Vice President of Finance, Tony Schiffmeyer. Are there any questions?
I see no questions with PRA.
All right, then with that, I will pass it on to our Vice President of Finance, Tony Schiff. Oh no, never mind, haha, that was a funny joke. I will pass it on to our Vice President of Legislative Affairs, Andrew Nickens.
Thank you very much, Ben. And thank you all of you for attending the first event of our professional and leadership development webinar series. So I first just want to talk about the tremendous impact that AB 1504 has had on the Student Senate and for empowering the voice of students statewide. Similar to how community colleges are somewhat ignored in funding and budget cycles, so too has the Student Senate in its funding. And so with the funding provided by AB 1504, we can really expand our reach and our activities, and really the power that we hold and the influence that we hold in getting policy and legislative priorities passed through the state. I think it's tremendous what this is going to allow us to do, and I think community college students will really feel the impact of this for years to come. And so I'm very, very excited to be one of the first at the helm of commanding some of these resources and dedicating them truly to the needs of students. And that's what our legislative priorities this year are all about. It's a comprehensive picture of what our students' needs are and how we would like to see them addressed, from topics ranging from basic needs, mental health, comprehensive financial aid reform to reflect the true cost of college. Because as we know, community colleges are the most expensive option for low-income students when compared to CSUs and UCs. And this is how SSCCC really steps in, or is beginning to step in, and fill this space and raise these issues that community college students need more support and they need more resources for our least resourced. And then I'd also like to share with some of our newer reach and expanded resources that we have begun to engage in proposition advocacy. I think like never before. As you may know, student body associations are somewhat limited in some of the proposition advocacy that they can do. But the SSCCC has taken a really strong stance on propositions 15, 16, 17, and 18. Most importantly, 15 and 16, which will dramatically change our system. This is one of the ways which we can really engage students by encouraging students at the local level to get involved in these campaigns and supporting some of these critical issues that are on the ballot. This ballot is one of the most important ones in decades. Not only do we have a historic presidential race rapidly approaching us, but also, like I said, these ballot measures, which will fundamentally change the way admissions, hiring practices, and contribute a large number of funding locally for community colleges that will go to address the needs of students locally. That would be Proposition 15. Another way that we're engaging students in advocacy is by disseminating monthly legislative alerts. You'll get student developed and student focused news related to legislative topics, and also to present opportunities for students just like you who can get involved in advocacy opportunities, whether it be through legislative advocacy, proposition advocacy, or any other kind of similar advocacy related to that. And also, finally, some of those alerts will be able to highlight some advocacy training and events that will be going on. Currently, the SSCCC is in the stage of working on its legislative proposals to present to legislators, prospective authors in this fall. And a part of that will be legislative visits in which we engage students locally in meeting with their local representatives and encouraging them to take a look at our priorities and really establishing a relationship with those legislators. So regions will begin to engage students in these local visits and hopefully establish a very strong connection between student voice, and not only between student voice between students at the statewide level, but also between students and their local representatives. I think that's truly the way that we can impart our influence, impart the perspective of students on key decision makers. Because as we know, and as we've continued to learn, these decision makers will make decisions for us if they do not hear our perspectives, those decisions will be made without our priorities centered and focused. And so that's why it's critical that we bring the student experience to them locally. And that way we can get our priorities past, those which most tremendously affect students, like I mentioned, those basic needs issues. As we all know, because of the pandemic, nearly 70% of students have lost some or all of their income. And so it's really critical that the SSCCC engage key legislative leaders in this type of work and uplift those local student stories. And so I will be bringing back some of those opportunities, and you'll see them in your region this fall. And so with that said, I'd like to take a pause here and see if there's any questions about some of the content I covered, and then I'll pass it off to our next colleague.
I see no questions in the chat, VPLA.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, maybe the last message I'll leave you with is that the SSCCC has presented some opportunities to get involved in proposition advocacy and block grant advocacy. And those are being displayed in our regions through our delegate assembly meetings. And we're providing some training and some resources about how to engage in those. So I strongly encourage you to talk to your legislative affairs director within your region and engage with us and engage your students locally in that advocacy, and let us know if you have any questions or any ways we can get involved and help and provide resources. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it off to the next presenter.
Hi everyone, my name is Tony Schiffmeyer and I'm the Vice President of Finance for the SSCCC. I'll just be giving an update on both what our Regional Finance and Fundraising Committee is doing with all the regions on the regional level for finances. And then I'll also be going over some of the planning for AB 1504 funds that Andrew mentioned earlier. So for the Regional Finance and Fundraising Committee, we started off right off the bat with training all of our new treasurers on the new fundraising policies and processes. So last year, there was a lot of work put in by myself and some of the others and creating a new regional fundraising policy that would allow regions to be able to raise funds through other avenues outside of just asking their ASOs to donate. So that means that they could hold fundraising events, they could ask for donations from individuals or businesses. And so it just really opened up the doors to a lot of these opportunities. So it was passed towards the end of last year. And now we're going to see this implemented over the next year by our treasurers to hopefully raise funds for their individual regions. We started off the last couple months just training the regional treasurers on all those policies, how the fundraising process works with the approval, and how to use the packets. And so that's been going great. I've gotten a lot of questions from treasurers. I've been meeting with a couple of them as well to just really get them prepared to start putting together their first fundraiser. And that goes in line with our second bullet point, which is developing fundraising goals, which will continue to be updated over the next year. We adopted the original committee fundraising goals at the beginning of the year with everything that we want to accomplish as a committee. And it will, as we see more treasurers come in, we'll continue to update it with their individual regional fundraising goals and how we as a committee can help them. And then in the future, to go hand in hand, because a lot of our treasurers are still preparing their first fundraiser, we'll be creating a post-event fundraising form as well to go with the other documents so that regions can just share with the committee how their fundraising event went, and we can provide feedback on how where they can improve for the future and that sort of thing. So that's what we've been doing a lot on the Regional Finance and Fundraising Committee level. And also we have our Regional Finance and Fundraising Committee meeting meeting later today where we'll hopefully be updating those fundraising goals later on. All right, moving on to SRF future funding. For those of you who don't know, the SRF are the student representation fees that the students pay. Funds not only the SSCCC's revenue, but also your local colleges as well. Those are your student advocacy funds. If you're involved in student government, I think that's something you may be aware of. And it's also what funds the SSCCC on the statewide level. So when AB 1504 passed last year, a lot of planning within the SSCCC has been focused towards what we're going to do with those funding, those funds that will be coming in April 2021, which means this year we have to do a lot of preparation work. So that means creating policies and that sort of thing. So what myself and my regional finance and fundraising committee will be doing in over the next term will be just creating policies and processes for how we can use those funds. That may be for scholarships and grants, that's within our committee goals, just in preparation for those student representation fees. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to hear if anyone has any questions.
I see no questions in the chat, VPF.
Thank you. And with that, I will pass it off to the Vice President of Communications, Brianna Ross.
Okay, sorry, I'm unmuted now. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Tony, for that presentation. And I just want to give some snapshots and also talk about the future goals for the Communications Committee. I actually was elected on September 4th, just like Ben, and so I'm still getting into my role and reaching out to a lot of different regions and their communications officers to see what's going on with their region and what are sort of some of their goals and things that they want to accomplish this year as communications officers. So the first thing is I actually created a comms request form for the communications officers to, well, actually communicate with me in some ways. So a lot of the responsibilities that you might think of from a communications officer is composing the newsletter and disseminating that. And so a lot of communications officers would ask me to look at their newsletter and see what are some ways to enhance it, some tips and stuff like that. So I just wanted to really streamline that to make it most effective, because a lot of times we get so many different emails and I don't want to have the excuse where, oh, I didn't see it. So now I have a spreadsheet and I can see all the different submissions for documents, and then I'll be able to review newsletters and give tips and pointers for sorts of things like also advertisements and flyers that regions may want to put out on their social media. And one thing that's really exciting is we actually have 6 out of the 10 regions with communications officers. So that's super exciting because we oftentimes we don't have communications officers elected in the regions. As you know, there's some regions that still need many of their regional officers, including their positions that fulfill the board of directors. And so it's just so exciting to see that we're getting more and more. And now I'll talk more about the future goals in this committee. So we really want to focus on implementing the communication strategies, and those as a continuation on talk about the rebranding through website enhancements and marketing materials to maintain a professional presence. So a lot of that means that we need to enhance the website, which I think will be done relatively soon, and that's very exciting. And that's going to be all ADA compliant and all that, so that not only is the information relevant and current, but it's also attainable to everyone who is trying to consume that information and get to know more about what we do. And my other goal is to plan trainings and help communications officers to really use their social media effectively. So as you know, most colleges and everyone else just isn't in person right now. Social media really is the way that we're going to be communicating our ideas and conveying our mission. And that's going to be such an asset for these regions that still need to get all their colleges active, because it's so easy to just look around and see what student body associations have an Instagram account and see what students on there would like to get more information about the region. And having all that information onto a regional account is very fitting, and it's super easy to go look at and see real quick. And regions can even post that, hey, look forward to our meeting coming up, so that everyone is just kind of on the same page and getting their information very clearly. The last thing is just training communications officers on newsletter creation and other resources that they may use throughout their term as a communications officer. So it's so important to have a newsletter, and there's some fabulous newsletters going around from the communications officers that were present at the beginning of our terms. And so what a newsletter, the importance of a newsletter is that we sometimes, especially in a virtual environment, the SSCCC and like the whole regional efforts can be somewhat either intimidating or like you just see it as an entity and you don't actually see maybe what's going on the side and what are like some key things that the regions and the SSCCC as a whole is helping with. That's why newsletters are so important that we can send out through our listservs at the regional level and also at the student senate level to everyone, because we really want to highlight how we're helping everyone, and hopefully that will help some people to see that we can actually be a tool for them to elevate their voices throughout the whole state level, because that's really what it is. The whole structure is just an inverted pyramid with students right at the top, and that's how communications is going to help carry out our mission and carry out the vision of these students that wish to contribute to their undergraduate experience in such a positive way on their campuses. And we really need to show them how we can help them with that, and allowing them the platform to tell us how we can help them is really what we're all about. So that's pretty much it for my update. Are there any questions regarding any of this?
I don't see any questions posted in the chat. We
Awesome,
proceed.
thank you.
Hi, Babas. All right, well, I want to thank everybody. If you go on to the next slide, thank everybody for coming. Really appreciate all of you being here and coming to this first workshop for our professional development conference. Right now, I guess we'll entertain any other questions. I know you didn't have any. Maybe you might have wanted to save them till the very end. If you have any questions right now, we'll entertain them. You can raise your hand, throw it in the chat, any way you'd like. We as an SSCCC, we look forward to representing the voice of students. This is a very honored position to be in, because we were put under that responsibility to be able to articulate to our system partners the voice of students, right? So we're here, we have an open door policy. All of our positions are our email addresses. So if you want to reach out to the Vice President of Regional Affairs, it's literally vpra@studentsenateccc.org. Myself, it's president@studentccc.org. You can reach out to any one of us, VPF, VPLA, VP for just the Vice President. We're here, we have an open door policy. We would love to talk to any of you. You have any questions, reach out to us. We're here to represent each student, all 2.1 million students. So we want to make sure that all voices are being heard and being fought for within the California Community College system. So if there are no other questions, we just want to thank you for coming. I hope you enjoy the rest of this conference over the next week. Please, please, please get into all those other workshops. They're going to be very beneficial for each and every one of you. And we look forward to serving you throughout the year. So thank you so much.